I'm very pleased to welcome our newly appointed CEO of C 2026, Peter Tomozawa. Peter.
Thanks, Beth. That's awesome. I would be remiss in not recognizing the host city bid team that got us here. Beth, sitting next to me, is the co-chair. She's the CEO of the Seattle Sports Commission. Maya Mendoza Ekstrom, she's the Chief Operating Officer of the Seattle Sounders. Adrian Hanauer, he was our executive chair of the committee, and he's the majority owner of the Seattle Sounders. And David Young, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Seattle Seahawks. As Beth had mentioned, we could not have done any of this without our government partners, starting with Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell, former Mayor Jenny Durkin, King County Executive Dow Constantine, and of course, Governor Jay Inslee. Kind of sound a little bit like a Grammy Award thing, but honestly, these people were instrumental in getting this all over the line. We had a lot of help from people like Deputy Mayors Manisha Harrell, Greg Wong, Chris Benson of the Seattle Office of Economic Development, John Wilson of the law firm KL Gates, Dylan Ordonez of the DC Mignone Consulting Group, and Alex Caulfield, Senior Vice President of the Communications of the Seattle Sounders. There's so many other people to thank, honestly, but these people I just called out have worked tirelessly since 2017 to bring us the cup. There is one special person I want to thank and feature to everyone here, and that person is Fred Mendoza. Fred was one of the key drivers of Referendum 48. That's a bill that was approved by the Washington voters back in 1997 to build what is now known as Lumen Field, the building that we're currently sitting in. Fred, Referendum 48 had specifically called out and stated that the stadium would be built for football, the Olympics, and for the World Cup. That was back in 1997. Fred is now the chair of the Public Stadium Authority, which is the group that oversees the operation of the stadium. He and Governor Locke had the audacity to dream that one day the World Cup would come to Seattle. Amazing, really, foresight. Well, that dream has become a reality. The World Cup is coming to Seattle and Washington in the summer of 2026. As Beth mentioned, the work starts now, but what we're really excited about is showcasing Seattle and our great state to the world. Maya Mendoza Ekstrom, David Young, and myself had the great opportunity to visit Qatar and experience the World Cup firsthand back in December. Two things that really stood out in my mind about that experience was firstly, the atmosphere. It was just electric. There were people from all over the world, all ethnicities, differing religious and political beliefs. We're all celebrating a gathering in Doha in celebration of the great sport of soccer, and they were all there with immense pride and joy about where they came from. What I learned about the World Cup there is that it is truly a unifying event. It's like nothing you've ever experienced, and I'm so excited to bring this that is coming to our region. The second thing was just understanding the enormity of the event. This event was so large, the amount of media, you folks, was intense. The number of people that watched, the audiences were just gigantic. If you consider 4 billion people watched the World Cup in 2022. That's 44% of the world. 1.2 billion people witnessed the final. That is just numbers that are mind-boggling. When you consider the Super Bowl gets around 175 million viewers, right? We just had a great Super Bowl on Sunday, well, depending on who you were going for, but honestly, it's 6 times bigger than the Super Bowl. The World Cup is actually 14% bigger than the Olympic Games. In fact, the least watched match, the most uninteresting matchup in the World Cup, draws an audience of 200 million people. That is just mind-boggling numbers, and consider that what this means to everybody, as I just said, 175 million watched the Super Bowl. What this actually means is that we're going to have hopefully 4 to 6 Super Bowl-sized events right here. That is astounding. And I think that is such a ginormous thought, actually, when you think about what this actually means. But hosting the World Cup and the games isn't the only reason to do this. The Seattle difference during the bid phase was our focus on not just hosting the games, but on what we leave behind. We were a legacy-led bid, and we will be a legacy-led organizing group. Back in 1962, the World's Fair came to Seattle and left us the Seattle Center and the Space Needle. Now, we're not going to go build another Space Needle in 2026. Our legacy will be built around people. What does that mean? That means we're going to focus on the community, culture, and children. That'll be our legacy. We want to create an experience for people to enjoy that they will remember for decades. That memory is what we're hoping to accomplish. If we do our jobs right, then we will have a lasting legacy that will last for decades. I'm so humbled by this opportunity, and as I stated earlier, the World Cup is coming in 2026, but what we're really excited about is bringing Seattle and Washington to the world in the summer of 2026. So with that, stay tuned for more to come. Happy to answer any questions at this point, but we're so excited about this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, you heard Peter. We're going to open it up for questions and throw it over to you guys. Kevin Kay has the mic here. He'll run it around. Jeremiah, I saw you first, and Jose, I saw you second.
Yeah, Peter, you mentioned the possibility of having anywhere from 4 to 6 games here. How much sway and how much influence does the committee have in determining how many games and which games you end up getting?
Great question, Jeremiah. Jeremiah always asks the best questions. He's always the lead-off hitter on all these things, and so thank you for that question, Jeremiah. We're working in conjunction very closely with FIFA. The way they're organized is they have set up a group called FWC 2026. It's for the tournament, and we're in constant contact. Beth and I had a conference call at 8 a.m. this morning with their group. The plan is as follows. They're going to set up the tournament, so they need to figure out how the tournament gets set up. It will be the largest tournament in the history of the World Cup. It'll be going from 32 teams to 48. It's the most geographically spread, so there's some real issues around how this thing gets set up. But once they figure out how this tournament will get set up, then we'll figure out the games that will be available and possible. Right now, the plan is, not subject to change, that we will find out what our city assignments are post the Women's World Cup. So hopefully in the fall of this year, we'll have a better understanding of where we sit with that. But just given the number of teams and the potential way it gets set up, we can certainly envision the potential to have at least 4, but maybe up to 6 games right here in our city. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Great.
Jose?
Peter, the World Cup has notoriously been a tournament that leaves cities behind with a lot of debt. How are we going to protect ourselves from that particular setup, given that stadiums around the world often get left to be unused, and the cities get left with a huge bill for putting on together infrastructure, setting up infrastructure to assist with the influx of population that comes into those cities?
Another great question, really. And honestly, one of the things that when we speak to FIFA about this particular World Cup is nothing new has to really be built. There aren't no stadiums that need to be built. We're going into an amazing opportunity here. With every city that was selected, one of the key features was how ready is your stadium? Now, there's some modifications that are going to have to be necessary. For example, we are going to put grass, which is a question I always get asked. Are you putting grass in Lumen Field? We are going to put grass in Lumen Field. So there are some modifications of those sorts, but we don't have to go off and build anything grandiose or big. And so I think that this particular World Cup will be very different than anyone that you've ever seen before. And so I think we, and also every city is charged with people like ourselves, as fiduciaries, to make sure that that doesn't happen in terms of costs and all those sorts of things. That answer your question?
Jada and then Diego.
Thanks. I wanted to ask Beth, can you kind of describe, or actually both of y'all maybe can answer this, when it became known that you did need a person of like Peter's experience to head this phase of the project, and then how big is it as far as number of people on the committee?
Sure. Excuse me. Yes, we always knew that we would need to stand up the local organizing committee. Up until this point, it has been essentially volunteers that have operated it and begun the strategic planning and visioning for it. But now we are at that point where the real work begins, as I said, and this requires a dedicated staff. Given the scope, Peter has described just how large this event will be here in our region, and it does require a dedicated staff for that. Those volunteers, whether from the Sports Commission side or the Sounders or our other community partners, we will all stay involved in supporting that staff. But this is an opportunity now to bring the community into the planning and support of this event. There are so many corporate partners and community leaders who just want to be part of this and want to see it be a success. So we will integrate that staff and the community to execute on that. Peter, do you want to talk about the staff
Sure.
itself?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're not gonna create monster staff. You know, it's one of those things that this is an organization we're gonna build, and for sure it's going to die. You know, most people build organizations to grow and live forever, but we're gonna disband in 2026. We are going to have a very, very close relationship with FIFA. They have resources to supply for every city. So this is contemplated already in the sort of the structure of how this is going to work. There's a certain number of things that FIFA are going to supply, a certain number of things that we need to supply locally to put our own local flavor on, if you will. And what our plan right now is to gather a senior executive team that will lay out what we're going to be doing. We will source what is happening, or what are the available resources that we're going to have. And rest assured, you know, to Jose's point, you know, we're going to do this in the most cost-effective manner as possible, and trying to keep the numbers of people down as opposed to up on terms of hiring for the local organizing committee. At the same time, working on opportunities to grow economic development, for example, for our neighborhoods. That's what we're going to be focusing and working on. And this is really an extraordinarily privileged time for us in the city to have the world's biggest sporting event coming to our city, and sort of our charge, not sort of, our charge here, Beth and I, Maya and others, is to maximize the opportunity for the city and for the state.
And I'll just add one thing to that. It's the role of the board to work with Peter to guide that ramp up of staffing. You don't, as Peter said, you don't want to have it be too heavy of staff on the front end, because that's unnecessary costs. And you also don't want to wait too long, because then you have the workload volume has reached a point where you need to have the staff to manage it. So it's a delicate balance to start off small, begin that visioning and laying the groundwork, and then slowly building your staff, your team. We'll have a host of volunteers as well who will be involved, and we will continue to build that towards 2026.
A number of staff? People? Well, again, it depends on how much requirement and how much resource we get. So right now we're in discussion phase, I would say, about that. We have a general list of things that are expected of cities, and we have a general list of things that are expected to be delivered by FIFA. But, you know, it's a little too early to say. But it's not, you know, one of the things that you just don't want to do is have runaway expenses on any of these types of things. And, you know, I'm probably one of the cheapest guys alive, and Adrian knows that too well. So rest assured, we have that in mind, right?
It's a tough soundbite to follow, but Diego, you're going to have to try. Go ahead.
So Beth and Peter, this question is for both of you. You guys mentioned your recent experience in Qatar, and two main things stood out for you. But is there anything in particular you would like to improve for 2026, in particular here in Seattle?
Relative to Qatar?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I came back from there so excited. You know one of the things that they did there, which was they celebrated their new waterfront park. Isn't that amazing? They put a fan festival on their waterfront park. So we got to go there and sort of preview what that could look like for us. Because guess what? In 2025, we're going to open our new waterfront park. Our ideas are around centering the waterfront park as sort of our main fan festival, right there on the waterfront. And so we're going to make it better, though. No question we're going to make it better. But it was stunning, sort of the visual. If you could just sort of picture how that would look from looking down from Pikes, the new aquarium there, all the plans that they have for that, and us plugging into that. So we're sort of thinking, 2025 is going to be the grand opening of the Seattle Waterfront Park. 2026 will be the coronation, where we get to showcase that, the beauty of it, to the entirety of the world. This is like, I get chicken skin moment thinking about like that. So other things that are I think that would be something that people should know is sort of like how we drive the audiences, in and around town, the fan experience. I think we can improve on that a lot. It was great, it was good, but it wasn't like, I would consider we can make it great, and nothing to say badly about what the Qataris did, because it was really a great experience, honestly. But I think we have that level of understanding of how to move fans of that nature around. We've had the experience, go to Jose's point. We've done this. We've done the MLS Cup. We have Champions League here. We know how to fill the stadium. But we also, the exciting part is connecting the neighborhoods all along the way. And also, we have some big plans, stay tuned, but of bringing the event to the state, right? Not just making everybody come here, but we have some really big ideas. And we want to partner with companies and sponsors and those kind of things to help us make those dreams come true. But honestly, I think, if we can think about how that might occur, but the idea being bringing the event to the rest of the state as opposed to making everybody come here is really something exciting.
And I'll add to that one of the opportunities when any city hosts a premier sporting event is the chance to bring forth the personality and identity of the region. And we've all been to an event somewhere where you could have been anywhere. You didn't know, it wasn't anything that distinguished it. And Seattle is special that way. We have some remarkable, the outdoor side of it, the urban element, all of these things are very Seattle specific. And so Peter mentioned showcasing the waterfront. Maya and I have long had this vision of that amazing drone shot that'll be over the waterfront and the packed fan fest, ferries coming by, all of that quintessential Seattle scenery. But it's also the personality and our core values here in our city. Inclusiveness, diversity, welcoming, accessible, all of those priorities and core values will be woven into World Cup. It's a chance to say this is who Seattle is, this is who our state is, and have that be part of the experience that our visitors have when they get here.
Nico Moreno?
A quick two-parter for Peter. One aspect that usually gets brought up by clubs is the amount of high-level training facilities. Obviously, are you guys banking on the new Sounders rented facility, or do you guys have already several spots that are going to host so many of these clubs here? And then I'll wait for my second one.
And that's the second part of the question?
Well, I'll just say it right now.
Okay.
I just wanted to know, you've been so passionate about the Sounders project. I just wanted to know how difficult it was. What was the mind process behind leaving something that you've been so passionate about?
Oh, okay. So the first part of the question is regarding training centers, and the second is like my passion for the Sounders. Is that the? And leaving, okay. I always have to write down Nico's questions because there are layers of beyond that. Training centers, yes, we have to do stadium renovations. We have to provide world-class level, FIFA level, acceptable level for teams like Argentina and France and those teams to play on. And that's part of actually going to be part of the legacy. So we're going to work with different sites that we've selected and different partners to work with on providing the adequate number of training facilities, and we may have to make investments to get them up to those standards. But you know what? We'll leave behind 2 or 3 places that are going to be FIFA level quality facilities, and so that's a really exciting part of actually what we're going to be doing. As far as the Sounders go, look, I'm still one of the tiny minority owner of the Sounders, and I couldn't be more excited about the collaboration that we're going to have with the club as we roll this out over the next few years. And quite honestly, I think we have a huge advantage because we're an organization that's led by people that really truly understand soccer. No offense to my other cities, but a lot of them are not led by people that understand the game and what it takes to put on a major mega event, like in specific to FIFA. So we're going to be working very closely with them. As you can kind of see, Alex is sitting here in front of us together. And I don't want to build like a whole new organization around this. So we're going to rely a lot on our partners, that being the Sounders, that being FGI, that being the Seattle Sports Commission. We're not have to reinvent the wheel here, right? And so we know we have competent, great partners to work with. I've already had discussions with the people from the Mariners, people from the Kraken, and so our city sports people are coming out in force to really support us here.
Okay, follow-ups. Yeah, Jada, go ahead. Mike's coming to you.
Thanks. Kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, what are you most proud of as far as leaving behind with the position with the Sounders? And then also, one of the business side of, exiting was the deal with Providence. I wanted to know what your position was with that, or how much you had impacted that, or what your feedback, what your communication was with fans as far as that goes and the pushback with that.
Jada always asks great questions too. Those are 2 great questions. What am I most proud about my time at Sounders? And then, do I have any thoughts on Providence? I think those are the 2 questions that you asked. What I'm most proud about Sounders is sort of no one had forecast. No one could have told me that we're going to have COVID in the middle of this situation. And we had to manage through really trying times and still deliver a high-quality product. 2019, I got here and we won the MLS Cup. And I'm like, wow, this is normal. This is easy. And then COVID hit in 2020. That was a really hard time. We had to cut staff. It was very emotional. It was tough times. We didn't have any fans in stands, but we had to put out a product out there, and we had to figure it out. And so what I'm really kind of most proud about is sort of how we managed through that process. And then we spent 21 and 22 sort of rebuilding ourselves back to the point. We had a lot of growth plans when I first came on board, and we had to kind of shelve those a little bit. Now I think we're in a great position. We've put ourselves back, and just, I think from the business perspective side, we're now at a place where I think we can really, really move forward to where we were right after we won MLS Cup. And on the field, we won 2019. We were runner-up in 2020. We were runner-up Leagues Cup 2021, and we were Champions League champions in 2022. I don't know if anybody could say that was not really fun. It was incredible. And the organization continues to be in a great place, honestly. And I couldn't be more excited for the future for the Sounders. As far as, I'm sorry, the second was? Oh, sorry. You know, I was in the room, I would say, and my thinking on Providence deal is like, they're going to do so much good. I just urge the community to give us a chance to show what that partnership is going to look like. But both, what I think is unique about this partnership is that it's a community-led one, honestly. And what we're going to do together in the community is something that will be amazing. And so I'm super excited by it. I know there's been some discussion around Providence and so forth, but this is a company that we thought about long and hard about who we wanted to partner with. And the plan, just, I think, stay tuned is what I would say. Be patient is what I would say. I would say that there's so much great intention behind the two organizations, and trust us a little bit on the sense of the Sounders have always been and stood for doing good in the community. And we're never going to stray from that. You know, I'm still wearing my Sounders pin, right? You know, once a Sounder, always a Sounder is what we say.
Okay, over to Jose again.
Excuse me. The World Cup has been traditionally a hard tournament to be credentialed to by smaller publications, especially local publications. What is the commitment that you guys are making towards ensuring that some of my colleagues have access to World Cup training facilities, World Cup events? Diego and I have gone to World Cups through different networks, which is a lot easier, but I do feel that a lot of the work that was asked of the local media to support the bid, there needs to be some sort of payout for that local media, and I just want to know if that's included in your plans towards ensuring equal coverage and fair coverage from the local outfits.
I'd say 100%. You know, this organization is rooted in local support, okay? And so I make that commitment to you, look you in the eye. If there's issues, just bring them to me. You know, we're friends, we're all colleagues in our city, and that kind of accessibility that you're describing is super high priority, of course. You know, it's also self-serving, because if we can be as inclusive as possible, particularly for the media, right? We only serve to better the event for everyone. Like I said, we want to bring the event to the people. We need the media to do that. You're our partners in this.
Other follow-ups? Sure, Jada, yeah.
Thanks. I wanted to know next steps then. Like, what's the first thing that you've got to get going here?
Great question, Jada. You know, first steps is we have already met with the board. We have laid out kind of our priorities in terms of tasks at hand. Some open questions still remain, you know, in terms of like the resources necessary. I will be hiring a senior executive team that will help me guide ourselves through this year. We'll be spending most of this year planning. One of our key priorities is funding, quite honestly. And so we will go out there to the marketplace. This is the first time since 1994 that FIFA have ceded some commercial and financial control to a city. And so that's a big challenge for us. We're going to do this in the best way possible, and I need to have the best team with me to do that. And it will be a team effort for sure. And so we're in the process of looking at building that out. So that's the first task at hand, is building out a world-class executive team that can help put the planning together, that will help answer your questions on how many people we're going to hire over time. but we really need time to assess what the needs are and requirements are, and we want to do this not in a way, we want to do this most thoughtful way possible. And we have some time before 2026, but not that much time.
In this new format that FIFA has offered up, allowing host cities to have local corporate partners is just a tremendous opportunity. It's unusual. And but it's exciting that we get to offer this extraordinary event experience that is coming to our region to corporate partners who have the same values and perspective on showcasing Seattle to the world. So that's really what Peter is focused on, and the board is who are those corporate partners that have the opportunity to be part of this.
Jeremiah, we'll go back to you if you still have one.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can, or how much you can speak to the the public transit infrastructure that is going to potentially be activated for this. I know that Sound Transit has fallen behind on some of their timelines to get light rail expanded, and I'm just curious, like how much of that is involved, and if you know anything as to like assurances you received that what will be ready and what will be accessible.
You know, that's a great question. We have already begun the outreach, and we had a huge meeting with our transportation folks in early part of January. So they are totally, our goal is to make sure that we are in lockstep with everything in terms of plans, in terms of deliveries, deliverables. Our focus is on making this the best experience for the community, the fans, and all of our stakeholders, the city, the government, the state, the county. And so and when you start thinking about all the tasks that we have to do and the coordination that we have to get done in and around transportation, so there's a whole transportation plan we're putting together, and so very timely question because we were literally talking about that as we speak. There's a whole security plan in and around this. We need to make sure that this is the safest event ever. You know, that's what keeps me up at night, if you want to be honest about like what is the key risk, if you will, is I want to make sure we have thought through everything we possibly can do to make this the safest event possible. And then there's the state training centers and stadium that we talked about, and the fan festival, and not to mention sort of like how we link the waterfront to the stadium. So there is a commitment on transportation that we're going to live up to, but there's a whole myriad of folks that we need to get on board. So all work in progress. Great question, but the answer to your question of how committed are they, they're very committed. They're very excited, and they see this as an opportunity to showcase what will be hopefully one of the best transportation systems around.
And I'll just add to that, one of the core tenets of our bid was that this event would be centered on the ground floor, and that public transportation, showcasing that this city is a walkable city. It's one of the things that FIFA remarked on early on,
that's right.
how easy it was to walk from the stadium to the hotels or even to the Seattle Center. And so focusing on that walkability, on the local businesses that are on the ground floor that will be able to be accessed by all of the visitors, that's where our priority is. So public transportation is a top priority for us. We want people to be using public transportation, biking, walking, using all of those means, scooters, whatever it takes to get them here and minimize the use of cars, frankly.
You know, that's a great little story, I guess, we'll share with you, is that when we were pitching the FIFA group here and we're talking about the walkability and the accessibility of the city, and they called us out on that. And we had Sprinter vans that were going to take the FIFA folks and our people to a dinner that night, you know, over at Amazon headquarters. And there was a whole group of people that are like, we're calling you out on this accessibility and walkability. We're going to walk there. And of course, anybody who walked beat everybody who who drove, and they were amazed and they were stunned. They were like, "This is like, you guys are truly urban. You guys, this is different, you know." And you know, a lot of our competitors were in the suburbs, not accessible like this, and so this became a very unique selling point for us. And so I love that question because it was a big differentiator for us. Mm-hmm.
Time for one or two more. And just a reminder, at the end, we'll do a photo op there for photogs in the back with both Beth and Peter. But we do have time for one or two more. Jose, do you still have one? Okay, Mike's coming to you.
Quick question in regards to the comment that you made about how this is the first time FIFA has allowed the local corporate sponsorships. Is that something that's going to be capped at a certain number, and how is FIFA setting the market for that? And the second part of that, is this a nonprofit organization or a for-profit organization, and where are those funds being allocated that is an excess of?
So let's start with the last question first. We are nonprofit. Anything that we do and we generate in excess of our expenses will go back into the community, right? And that's number one. Number two, it's the first time since '94. I don't know if that's going to be something they're going to do for the future, because it depends on what kind of country they go into. What they did recognize and realize is that the cities that they all selected have really great relationships with their corporate partners in their own backyard. And so rather than them trying to reinvent the wheel, now we've created this kind of partnership model. We had a meeting this morning that discussed the meat and bones of that and how that looks. So just stay tuned on that, but just rest assured that the idea is to sort of create a 1 + 1 = 3 collaboration between FIFA and ourselves. But we want to mostly focus on delivering value to any sponsor, and that's what we're committed to doing.
Did I miss anybody? Jada, you want to close this out? Yep, before photo op.
It's not a closing question, good closing question, but I just as far as your future, you know, probably can't see past this right now, but with Hugh Weber, is he like a position holder? I mean, do you expect to go back to the Sounders, or, you know, as far as that position goes, or is this transitioning into who knows?
Well, I don't believe Sounders have made an official announcement yet, and I think that's coming. All I can say is that this has not been sort of a willy-nilly, you know, seat of our pants. That's not how we operate at Sounders. And I am super excited about the prospects for the future of Seattle Sounders. I'm one of the owners, so that I'm very, very invested in that, figuratively and literally. But at the end, you know, we're so pleased with how this is all kind of, and maybe that's a story for later, but, you know, it was very serendipitous, actually, how all these things sort of, the stars literally aligned at the sort of same time that allowed me to do this, and allow us to have a great plan to fill, you know, and as I said earlier, I've said to others before, I didn't say earlier today, but the person selected for this is way better than me. You know, you should always hire the best person to do the job. And this person that the Sounders have selected, we have selected, is far better person to run this organization than I am. So I couldn't be more happier than for that reason alone. Who knows what the future will hold? As I said earlier, this organization is destined, you know, this is like running a startup, but with the objective is to close. Who does that, really? And so we will continue to work with you and keep you guys informed every step of the way. And I really look forward to this experience. And again, you know, this is just such a massive opportunity for our region, our state, our city. And let's just work together and get this right, you know, and maximize that opportunity. And it's just going to be phenomenal.